Okay, delighted to say I've got Patrick O'Flynn back on the channel today. First of all, Patrick, how are you, sir?
I'm well. I'm hoping we're quite near the end of the COVID lockdown now. I think we're ready for a big push to open up again soon. But yeah, fine.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to talk to you today about this piece you wrote for The Express. We must not let the left erase Britain's glorious history. But Patrick, for those who haven't read, can you please give the thrust of your argument?
Yeah, well, it was off the back of a debate online hosted by no less than Churchill College, Cambridge, about their great patron and benefactor, who they seem to want to distance themselves from. And this guy Gahindi Andrews came out with some preposterous stuff about. I think at one point he said the British Empire was worse than Nazi Germany. And he also thought we should cancel Churchill because he reckoned that without Churchill, the Second World War would have still ended the same way. Not his area of expertise whatsoever and not the historical consensus, but it's kind of represented what I think is the left continually stepping up this war against Britain, this attempt to tell us all we should be ashamed of our country, its past, its heritage, its traditions, and its heroes. So you've got Sadiq Khan setting up a new diversity commission for the public realm, which is obviously a precursor to taking down statues, renaming streets in London that are named after historic figures who can have shown to have some link with slavery at 8 removes or whatever. But the British public overall should wake up to what Labour, the party overall, stands for. Labour's come out with its new report today saying that Britain should pay reparations to former colonies for wrongs inflicted. It's just obsessed with self-abasement, right? They loathe Britain. They can't see any good in what we've achieved in the world, and they want British people, particularly white working class British people, to feel shame when there's so much in our history to be proud of. So really, I just want to sort of alert people to the flaws in Labour's thinking and remind them it's okay to be proud of who we are.
Absolutely, Patrick. And one of the things I think is really an interesting aspect of what we're seeing here from this noisy far left element is they're given their way. The coverage that they're given is way more than as a proportion of public support they actually have. And I'll actually, unlike some on the far left, I'll actually give you some facts on this, because here's a Delta poll done for Policy Exchange. I'd like to get your response to these figures. It is unfair to make judgments about people in the past based on today's values. Statues of people who were once celebrated should be allowed to stand. 65% of Brits, according to this Delta poll, agree with that statement. Generally speaking, from what you know of the UK history as a whole, do you think it is something to be proud of? 69% of Brits agree with that. Only 17% say it's something to be ashamed of. And finally, do you think the statue of Winston Churchill, Britain's Prime Minister during the Second World War, should or should not be removed from Parliament Square because some of his views are considered offensive by some people today? Should be removed, 11%. Should not be removed, 80%. So I do think this is an issue, Patrick, where this sort of noisy far left minority are given way more media coverage than the sort of far left shock jocks, if you like, are given way more media coverage than there is actual public support. If the country thought like this, of course, Jeremy Corbyn would be Prime Minister, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Well, I think that's true, but I think the key to note is that those figures ranging from about 11% to up to about 20%, they're massively predominant in certain elite groups within the media, within senior reaches of the public sector, certainly within the big city constituency Labour parties, that run the Labour Party now. Labour, is not the party of working class Britain or England anymore. So yeah, it's fair to say it's a very small minority. And I think there was a YouGov poll that showed only 19% of people think the British Empire is something to feel shame about, and that's despite these ultra negative narratives being pushed through our universities and our schools for many years now. So yeah, it's good that it's a minority, but I think we have to be alive to the fact that it's a minority that has captured one of our biggest political parties.
Yeah, and my view, Patrick, is that if the Labour Party keep going down this road, then they're never the chances of them forming a government anytime soon are very, very remote indeed. What do you make of the Labour Party so far under Sir Keir Starmer versus what we saw under Jeremy Corbyn? Do you think there's much difference or not?
No, there's a stylistic difference, which is Starmer doesn't want to talk about these issues, but he hasn't done anything fundamental to break that element of his party or marginalize them and really speak up for being proud of Britain, proud of who we are, and yes, proud of many elements of our history. There are Labour Party supporters who want to take down Nelson's column as well as Churchill's statue. Anything they can find which speaks to Britain having been, a supreme power in the world hundreds of years ago. They want to exterminate. They want to create this idea of unique British culpability. There is no rational basis for the British people to feel ashamed of their past.
Well, Patrick, as the research on this shows, mainstream Britain is proud of our culture, proud of our history. Now, what do you want to see Boris Johnson and the British government do in terms of the so-called culture wars? Because it seems to me the far left have been mobilised and organised on this for a while. Those on the right, more on the catch-up side of this. We've seen a few murmurings about defending statues, etc., from the government. But what do you think Boris Johnson and the government really need to do to assert themselves in this debate?
Well, I suspect what they are doing is getting hold of the issue as a vote winner with various symbolic and fairly empty little gimmicky policies to try and send a signal to mainstream voters that we're having nothing to do with this nonsense. But I think they need to take, comprehensive action across a wide variety of policy areas. I also think that on universities, we need strong action to protect freedom of speech and against cancellation. On statues and historic monuments, I think the suggestions flying around that there should be a planning law which says that any proposal to remove a monument should be taken in to the Whitehall Department and not decided by figures like Sadiq Khan, because London monuments, they're of national importance and significance. It's not just a matter for the people who currently live and vote in London. So really, I think we need a more considered and worked through and substantial agenda from the government. But I guess they think all their Christmases have come at once politically, because all they need to do is make a speech every 6 weeks bemoaning this nonsense. And, the average voter faced with a choice between Labour and Tory is going to swing Tory. I just hope we see more substance.
Absolutely. And Patrick, I'll put up a link there again to your article. I really do recommend people go and read it. But as ever, great to get your insight here on the channel. Great to speak to you. And we'll catch up again soon, I'm sure. Cheers.
Great stuff, Michael. Thank you.